It's Thursday, January 5th, 2017. I'm your host, Sarah Mantle. We have a great show in store for you today. A plan to house former inmates in Hyannis will again be a topic of conversation for the Committee to Assess Homelessness. It's time to fill out your census. We'll tell you why it's so important. Town Manager Mark Ells talks about his goals for 2017 and so much more on this episode of Barnstable Today. The Committee to Assess Homelessness will again discuss a controversial plan by the Sheriff's Office. The plan would utilize a Hyannis home as a transitional shelter for former inmates. Town Manager Mark Ells will update the committee about recent meetings held with Sheriff Cummings about that plan. The Committee to Assess Homelessness meets Monday, January 9th at 6 in the Selectmen's Conference Room. A large number of voters in the recent general election had to spend a little more time at the polls than they may have wanted to. That's because many residents did not return their annual census form. The town clerk's office will again be sending out the census and voter registration forms to every household in Barnstable. You are encouraged to fill out that census and return it as soon as possible. Call the clerk's office with any questions. The Bay Street boat ramp in Osterville is getting some improvements. That ramp will be closed through April 15th for reconstruction. Residents and motorists are advised to avoid that construction area. Well, it feels like summer is a distant memory, but it's going to be here before you know it. The town is now selling 2017 beach parking permits through a mail-in process. Applications can be downloaded from the town's website. The cost for a year-round resident parking permit is $40. Up next, I got a chance to sit down with Town Manager Mark Ells. We talked about his goals for 2017. It's the beginning of a new year here in the town of Barnstable, and to learn about the goals for the year for our town manager's office, we have Town Manager Mark Ells. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to talk about your goals, what you hope to accomplish 2017.
Well, as town manager, we're always focused on the strategic planning that the town council does for our community, and certainly establishing big picture where we need to go as a community to address the needs and to be able to take our community, toward not only the needs but the wants of our community, given all the things that are going on. So, maintaining a balance here in Barnstable. I've talked about that quite a bit. A quality of life that reflects what our residents, our businesses, and our visitors want is a big challenge. And I think, looking the longer I'm here and the more I get to work with others from other places, other communities, I understand how complex Barnstable really is. We're a year-round community with a very commercialized regional center with medical and transportation and downtowns, multiple downtowns with very different characteristics, year-round residents. We have a growing educational district here in town. Then we have all those wonderful features that everybody thinks of Cape Cod, with our beaches and our marinas and our golf courses and all those wonderful activities that we get to partake in by living here. So putting that all together and making sure that the municipal services provide an appropriate balance to maintain those, to address those, to nurture that so that it moves forward and it continues to be a wonderful place to live and do business is really the challenge we have.
Yeah,
and so,
when things run smoothly, sometimes people don't necessarily know how hard the town staff worked to make it seem so easy, right? To make everything flow so smoothly.
Well, I think it comes smoothly. Right, our citizens' involvement through our council and the council leadership and establishing that strategic plan really gives us the clear guidance as to where we need to go over any given period. So that's critical. And then having that staff that you discuss in place, understanding what's expected and understanding the level of resources that they've been provided to move toward whatever those objectives are is really the way to do it. And the complex part is all the moving pieces that surround us being effective in doing that. So
you mentioned the town council's strategic plan. Is there a specific time of year when they work on that strategic plan and their goals for the year?
Well, they had last fall. They typically update it for us, and it becomes kind of the underpinnings of our certainly of our 5-year program and really our annual budget. It's one of the first things when I was a director of a department that I always looked at. I wanted to make sure that where we were putting forth efforts coincided, supported, complemented what was in the within the strategic plan, because if it didn't, there was some sort of breakdown, either on our part or a lack of understanding of what was established or some change that occurred, so it was no longer a priority. But you really needed the senior management to resolve that, keep everybody focused, because we have a limited amount of resources and a limited amount of time. So if you're not focused, things can get away from you pretty quick.
One project I'm excited to see come to fruition this spring or summer is some of the renovations that have been taking place at the bathhouse at Craigville Beach. I know that's been in the works for quite some time, and we should have, I think it's going to be up and running for the summer.
Oh, it will be, yes. And it's the beginning of where we're going. You know, people come to Cape, when I talk to people not from Cape Cod, looking from the outside in, they can't believe that we're able to live here, and their image, their perception of where we live is just, wow, that's incredible that you live there. How is it? And, you know, I want to make sure, certainly as my time as town manager, that it meets that expectation, and so upgrading all of our facilities to a level that really addresses or really keeps that perception alive and real is where I hope to go with it. So something like a Craigville Beach bathhouse, or even if it's a comfort station in the Main Street parking lot. When people come here, they expect this to be a premier place to come in our country. And that's the way we need to look at what we do here in Barnstable, because that's really our position in the market. And so it's exciting to be a part of that. Craigville, yes. How wonderful is that? How many people come here and go to Craigville Beach?
And that, like you said, it's interesting because that is an impression that they will have then of the town of Barnstable. So really exciting to see that happen. And lots of any other big projects that we maybe foresee happening this year?
Oh, we have lots going on. You know, we have major roadways where we're doing it in conjunction with the state. I mean, you see what's going on out on Route 28 from Bursa's Way down to those lights at the back entrance of the mall. That's a major 2-year project to improve not only the roadway but the sidewalks and pedestrian access to the area, the signalization to make it a safer, more well-lit, more pedestrian and vehicular friendly corridor.
And that's really needed to happen for some time now. I know it's been a challenging intersection for many. A lot of people are walking in that area that live very close to there. Yep. And there really, before this project, there really wasn't a lot of pedestrian ways to walk and some really, so that improvement I think is very, very important.
Absolutely, for safety and for aesthetics. And again, come back to what we were just talking about. We want people to come to our commercial areas because it's desirable, because it's safe and accessible, because it's aesthetically pleasing. Because we're on Cape Cod and we're in Barnstable and Hyannis, and that should be a positive thing, and it is a positive thing. We got to make sure that what's being done out there, supports that, no matter who's doing it and where they're doing it. So I think you'll see a consistent theme with myself and certainly our senior staff to do all we can to make that happen. Yarmouth Road's the next big kind of regional state-town partnership where Willow Street 28 right. And the upgrade, that's in the queue as well. But then we're looking at 132, and those are just roads projects. There's water projects, there's facility improvements projects. One thing staff did a great job over the holidays. We sometimes we get feedback that not everybody who wants to use the HYCC is there and using it. And we had an internal discussion, later last year, and staff did a phenomenal job communicating with our community. I literally went there almost daily during open gym time. The place was packed.
That is so
Packed
great
with,
to hear.
with young people. It was wonderful.
And that's what it is there for. So glad to see that.
Yeah,
You know,
everybody did a good job
yeah.
on that one. They really stepped up, made sure we communicated, made sure when the kids came, they knew when it was open, and it was great. It was just wonderful to see that. So never mind, they were in season for hockey
Right,
and other sports,
and
so
basketball.
it's busy with all of that. But we really looked at, okay, when are those segments of time that we could get everybody in there?
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah.
And so great job by the staff there.
Yeah, and you're right. We really do have some fabulous resources here in the town of Barnstable. Very excited to see what's to come this year, and a lot was accomplished last year. Is there anything looking back last year that you're really proud that was accomplished?
I just think the continued effort that exists, we between our residents and our leadership and our staff. Again, Barnstable's a complex system. We sit on a very sensitive, environmentally sensitive, even economically sensitive, area, and yet we balance this and do an excellent job, in my opinion. And it's not just me saying it. I get it from the outside in. They keep, higher and higher levels, and other parts of the country continue to call and say, so what do you do, and how did you do that? Well, why does that work?
Yeah.
And it's just a reflection on this common effort to preserve and protect and to grow appropriately what we have here. So if I look back, but that's been true since I've been here. Quite honestly, and you go through economic swings, and sometimes you can do more, in certain times and less than others. But in general, that's been the common theme, and so I'm proud of that. That's why I'm proud of being the town manager in Barnstable. Quite honestly.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing all of the wonderful things that happen here in the town of Barnstable this year.
I'm glad to be here.
Our guest today, Town Manager Mark Ells. So much more to come on the program. Town Council meets tonight. To find out what's on the agenda, I spoke with Town Council President Eric Steinhelber. You're watching Barnstable Today. Joining me now over the phone is Town Council President Eric Steinhelber. Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you and excited about you joining the program.
Well, thanks very much, and I appreciate spending some time with you.
Well, we have a pretty light agenda for this week's Town Council meeting, nothing too big. There is going to be a public hearing, but let's go ahead and review some things that will be happening in the meeting. The first thing up on old business is an appropriation order for the Golf Course Enterprise Fund. What is this for?
That's actually a bit of good news. The sales, in the pro shop for shirts and sweatshirts and the other clothing is actually up this year. So basically this is adding to their budget for this year so they can replenish their stock for the spring season at the golf courses.
Yeah, that is a bit of good news, I suppose. If they're selling some things, that can really help to bring in some profit for the golf courses. So really important. And that's $20,000. Where is that money coming from?
Well, they have an enterprise fund. We have a number of enterprise funds in town. So it's basically we're approving the transfer, of that amount from that fund, and it is a moneymaker for the golf courses, for the town. The sale of the merchandise. Obviously, there's a markup from cost, but I think their sales this year were up, approaching 30%.
Wow.
So they've done well. So it's nice to get halfway through the year and they're already running low on stock. So obviously with the spring right around the corner,
yeah, it's
that's
that time of year.
Prime golf weather, we hope.
Yes, let's cross our fingers on that one. Let's hope spring comes around a little bit sooner than later. I want to talk to you about the next item on old business. This may take a little bit more time during the meeting. There actually will be a public hearing on this. This is amending the zoning, the code of the town of Barnstable, adding, I think, some uses for the Gateway Medical District in Hyannis surrounding the hospital. Why is this being proposed right now?
Sure. Well, that is going to be a joint public hearing with the planning board. And the proposal was really brought forward by the Barnstable Economic Development Commission, the BEDC, and they're a town council appointed board of volunteers that do a lot of great work. trying to identify things that would help spur economic development, business in town. And one of the things that they had discussed at a number of their meetings, they had some owners of properties in this stretch of road, and it's kind of approaching the Yarmouth town line there, where the zoning there was restrictive. They felt restrictive, and they had numerous vacancies. So what this does is still allow the medical that's in place there, but it will allow for other types of offices, restaurants and some retail, I believe. So it just kind of opens up the opportunity for those owners, those landlords, to actually get those units rented and business going in those structures.
Yeah, and then you, of course, are also the liaison to the Barnstable Economic Development Commission. Did you work with them at all while they were developing this proposal and sort of review it with them as a committee?
Well, I had offered a while back to be the sponsor. You need a town council member to sponsor things to come forward to the agenda. So I had offered that to them a while back. But I am the liaison, and there's other things that they're working on as well that we hope we can kind of bring forward here soon in this next year. Yeah,
so important, I think, for the council to work with these committees to get some input there, and really interesting to see some of these committees working so hard to bring things forward to the council.
Absolutely, the committees are very, very important, all of them. And if anyone's listening and they'd like to get involved with the town, we certainly vacancies on various committees are listed on the town website. And you can contact the town council office and put an application for something that might interest you, and the process can unfold from there. But we definitely rely heavily on volunteers in town to help with a number of these committees that span various subject matters.
Well, and then, of course, it does say on the agenda you may go into executive session just to discuss the town of Barnstable versus Barnstable County, and that would, of course, be an executive session and private between the councilors.
That's correct. Yep.
Well, thank you for joining us. And before I let you go, I guess I should ask you, do you have any big goals as you take the presidency?
Well, I think we've made strides in a lot of areas, and I want to continue that. There'll be a lot of focus on economic development, job creation, streamlining zoning and regulations going forward. Also, when you're talking about zoning, how can we, make better use of some of the areas we have in town to address not only affordable housing, but housing that's affordable.
Yeah.
There's a distinction there. And we'll be looking at that in the coming year. We'll continue, to do work with public safety and homelessness. There's obviously a lot on the council's plate, year-round, but we're all very diligent and look forward to working together to continue the progress we've made and to tackle issues as they come.
Well, congratulations again. Thank you for joining us today. Look forward to chatting with you again in a couple weeks.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah.
All right, talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our guest this morning, of course, Town Council President Eric Steinhilber. Town Council meets tonight at 7.
That's impressive.
You're watching Barnstable Today. Newly elected and sworn in State Senator Julian Cyr is joining us now on the phone. Julian, congratulations. Must have been a very exciting day for you at the State House yesterday.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning. Yeah, it was a very exciting day. It was pretty humbling and special to be back at the State House, a place that I've worked. But to be a member of the chamber of the 40 members in the state Senate, it was a pretty wild experience.
Absolutely, lots of fun there. And I know you're already hard at work. I want to hear a little bit more about this policy forum that you're hosting this weekend at the Cape Cod Community College.
So the thought is that folks often don't understand the timeline of work in the Senate, in the legislature. And so we have a bill filing deadline coming up on January 20th. So by January 20th, legislators are asked to file most of their priority bills. And
See, and that always has shocked me, knowing that, has shocked me, knowing that anything filed after that first January, what did you say, the 20th this year?
January 20th, yeah.
Before January 20th, anything else is considered late filed, which is so interesting because that's for the whole 2-year session.
Yep, so I've basically got, 16 days to figure out all my legislation. I mean, we've been hard at work planning what that's going to be. But the idea in the Policy Summit really is to provide an opportunity for folks across the Cape and Island, both stakeholders who often are in touch with their state senators and state representatives, but also people who are less involved in that process, to come to have a conversation about some of the policy priorities, legislative priorities that we're thinking of working on, getting people's input, and really making sure that we're doing due diligence to include residents of the Cape, of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket in that process.
What have you been hearing? I know you've been out in the district, of course, when you were campaigning, talking to lots of different people. What have you heard are really important issues facing individuals that live here on Cape Cod?
Actually, one of the sort of the best education I got for this process was the 25,000 plus doors that we knocked on the campaign. I knocked about 2,000 plus of those. People, of course, the opioid epidemic is very much on people's mind. Affordability really is something that I really found that families who've been on the Cape for a long time and families who are more recent are really struggling to make it all work. How our economy, you've always had to kind of do a bunch of different things to eke out a living here.
That's right. It's true.
Right? I mean, it's always been that way. But it's just not adding up, especially with the high cost of housing. And so I think housing affordability is really critical. Access to services. I see a lot of really good work happening in the community, and a lot of also isolation especially for seniors. I've seen that as a problem. I would go to someone's door, and it was really clear that I was the first person who was there, who'd been there in weeks or in months. And then certainly people are concerned about the environment, a lot of concerns around Pilgrim. But really just a lot of questions. People seem to really understand that how they made their life on Cape Cod and on the islands, it'd be a lot harder to do that in 2016. And for those of us like you and me who are, in that directly, it's really hard. So I think that's really the real priority that I really saw. And Tony Schiavi, my Republican opponent, saw that as well. I mean, we were talking about the same issues. So I think there's a lot of consensus on the Cape, in the region, that just the status quo and what we're doing is not making it so that real people can make a life on the Cape anymore. And
you've made it very clear that you want this policy summit to be nonpartisan, something for everyone. Tell me, what time is this being hosted, and where is the event happening?
So it's Saturday, January 7th. This coming Saturday. It's at Cape Cod Community College at the Tilden Center for the Arts, and it's from 1 to 5 p.m. Everyone's welcome. There's some information on my website, Senator Sear. Anyway, just come, and anyone and everyone welcome. I'm hoping I will be over the cold that I have now.
Everyone's had it.
I know.
It is really going around Cape Cod, let me tell you.
I made the mistake of jumping in the ocean on New Year's Day, and 4 hours later I was feeling pretty sick.
Yeah.
So I think I brought it on myself. But the Policy Summit is Saturday, 1 to 5 p.m. Any and everyone is welcome. Please come. And if you're unable to make it, please sign up, and we can make sure you get some information about it after the fact.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know a very busy week, a very busy month for you, taking office, being just sworn in yesterday, already holding a policy summit on Saturday. So really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
My pleasure.
Welcome to the show, and we look forward to having you on as a regular guest.
I'll be back on.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. My guest today was State Senator Julian Cyr. Now let's find out what's happening around town in today's community calendar. The Cape Cod YMCA and the Hyannis Youth and Community Center are teaming up to host a Zumba Blacklight Party this Friday, January 6th from 6 to 8. The fun event will be held at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center. Adults can join in for $10, kids are just $5. You can register at the YMCA in person in advance of that event, online or in person the day of the event. Do you need a little help keeping that New Year's resolution? Well, the Barnstable Senior Center offers affordable exercise and wellness classes for all ability levels. Classes include line dancing, Zumba, yoga, and so much more. You can visit the town's website and click through to the Senior Center to learn more about those programs. Well, we do have a few board, committee, and commission meetings this week. Here's our complete list. Well, thanks for joining us today. We hope to see you back here tomorrow. We're going to have a great show for you tomorrow as well. We're going to talk to Sandy Neck Beach Park manager about snowy owls making their way back to Sandy Neck Beach. We will chat with Patty Machado, Director of Leisure Services. She's going to tell us about a new position and a new hire in her department. And we're going to talk with HYCC General Manager Joe Izzo. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.